We are on a journey to explore the great African kingdoms and empires that existed before the arrival of the European colonizers. Apart from the great Egyptian empires, there were many more ancient and pre-modern empires and kingdoms that dominated their territories in Africa. In today's video, we are going to be exploring a kingdom that very little is being written about today, despite being made up of great warriors and having incredible architecture that is still a wonder of the modern archaeologists. Today, we will be exploring the Great Zimbabwe Empire. If you enjoy this type of content, please do like and subscribe to our channel, as it really helps us out. And feel free to leave a comment below, as we really enjoy reading all your insights. The Great Zimbabwe Empire was a pre-colonial civilization that existed in southern Africa from the 11th and 15th centuries in what is modern-day Zimbabwe. It was one of the most impressive kingdoms in Africa, known for its remarkable architecture, trade network, sophisticated economic system, advanced military tactics, and rich cultural heritage. It was also a powerful and influential empire that controlled vast territories and traded over civilizations across Africa and the Indian Ocean. The origins of the Great Zimbabwe Empire. Zimbabwe comes from the Shona language, which means stone houses. Therefore, historians believe it was founded by the Shona people, who migrated from the north to the Zimbabwe plateau around the 11th century. It first started as a small community that settled along the shores of River Zambezi and slowly grew into a large and powerful kingdom in southern Africa. According to historians, the construction of the kingdom's stone buildings and massive stone walls began in the 11th century and expanded for the next 3 centuries. Its formidable structure, commonly known as the Great Enclosure, was the first to be constructed and had walls of height of up to 36 feet, covering an area of around 820 feet. The wall was built from granite rocks that were carefully fitted one on top of another to form a strong barrier. The Great Zimbabwe Empire was established on a great wealth of gold, ivory, copper, and other resources found in the region, contributing to its quick growth into a dominant force in the area. One of the key things it was known for was the impressive trade networks. Its location in a natural resources-rich region made it an important trade hub. As a result, the influence in trade extended to far regions such as Swahili city-states in East Africa and to the Indian and Arab merchants who traded along the Indian Ocean. Additionally, the empire grew gradually due to military conquest and economic growth. Under the leadership of mighty kings such as Nyatsimba Mutota, Matope, and Mwene Mutapa, the Great Zimbabwe Empire expanded its territory and influence throughout the region. The empire controlled vast stretches of land, including modern-day Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and parts of South Africa. The kings organized and led military attacks that saw them win and obtain influence over many territories. Because of this, the empire became a powerful force in the region. A series of kings who later became known as Mwene Mutapa ruled over the Great Zimbabwe Empire. These kings were very powerful and had significant political and military authority. Among the documented leaders of the Great Zimbabwe Empire was Nyatsimba Mutota. He was believed to have left his home in the north and traveled to the south in search of salt, where he conquered the Kingdom of Zimbabwe and established his dynasty. He is credited with expanding the empire's power and economic growth. The second ruler was Matope. Legends claim he ascended to the throne in the 14th century. Matope expanded the empire's territories through a series of military campaigns in which he became successful. Through these conquests, Matope attained influence in neighboring states such as Zambia, Malawi, and Mozambique. He is also credited with establishing the tradition of the Rosvit kingship. This tradition was characterized by a centralized monarchy and army. The last known king of the ancient Great Zimbabwe Empire was Mwene Mutapa Mushongo Moyo, the son of Matope. He was a crucial actor for the expansion of the kingdom. He ruled from the late 15th century to the early 17th century. He expanded the kingdom's military and oversaw the construction of more stone structures in the kingdom. Some of these formidable structures still stand today. The Great Zimbabwe Empire was highly centralized, ruled by a series of powerful kings who oversaw the administration of the empire. The kings had ultimate authority, were responsible for making important decisions, including matters of war and diplomacy, and were advised by a council of elders. They lived in a stone palace at the Great Enclosure. The empire had a well-organized system of government that was supported by an extensive network of bureaucrats and officials who oversaw the day-to-day operations of the kingdom. It was also divided into provinces or districts, each governed by a local chief or noble appointed by the king. These local officials collected taxes, maintained law and order, and enforced the king's orders within their respective territories. Furthermore, the empire was also divided into social classes, where the rulers took the top class while the ordinary people were at the bottom. The Great Zimbabwe Empire had a sophisticated economy that was based on trade, agriculture, and mining. It was a hub for commerce. The empire traded extensively with other civilizations, including India, China, Arabia, and those along the Indian Ocean coast. It had wealth based on its vast resources, including gold, ivory, and other precious commodities. As a result, they traded these resources and items with neighboring regions or visitors who wanted them. The empire also had a well-developed agricultural system that provided food for its people and a surplus for trade. It had fertile farming lands, and the people of the kingdom were skilled farmers who grew crops such as millet, sorghum, and maize. Additionally, they adopted cattle keeping, which added as an economic activity when agriculture could not work due to the depletion of resources. Mining was also a significant economic activity in the Great Zimbabwe Empire. Gold was the most important mineral mined and traded for revenue. The empire had rich gold mines which produced a lot of gold, which was then used in making ornaments, jewelry, and trade items, which would then be exchanged for other goods or items during a trade. The Great Zimbabwe Empire had a rich and diverse culture that was characterized by art, architecture, music, and dance. The empire's architecture was particularly impressive, with large stone structures and elaborate carvings that were unique to the region. Examples of stone structures included walls, towers, and buildings. The most famous being the Great Enclosure or Great Zimbabwe Ruins, which served as the capital of the empire. The people also had their religion, which was primarily based on the worship of ancestors. They considered their ancestors important to their lives and could be consulted for guidance and protection. They built shrines where they would worship and offer sacrifices to their ancestors. They also believed in supreme beings and considered their kings to be the chosen people by their supreme beings to lead them. Therefore, the king was a powerful and highly respected person in the empire. Among the artistic and cultural expressions of the Great Zimbabwe Empire was the famous Zimbabwe bird. It was a stone sculpture built by their artisans that served as a national emblem for modern-day Zimbabwe. According to stories, the Zimbabwe bird was considered a symbol of power and authority of the Great Zimbabwe Empire. The structure of the Great Zimbabwe Empire constituted the Great Enclosure, a spectacular circular stone wall structure that dates back to the 14th century. Its walls are over 10 meters, 5 meters thick, and extend to 250 meters. This edifice comprised of thousands of carefully cut and fitted stones and was constructed with such precision that it is still firm to date. Being one of the most remarkable structures, its construction, however, has been a subject that has never been clear. Theories like the elite residence theory suggest it was built to be the royal family house, including for their attendants and other nobles. Defensive theories suggest the Great Enclosure was built to be a defense structure for the ruling elite. The strong walls were meant to make it impenetrable from external threats. Other theories also suggest it was a religious site and a symbol of the power and prestige of their ruler. Its construction style and techniques are also a subject of controversy. The method used in its construction was unique in African architecture, which made many researchers question who could have built it. Karl Moch, a German explorer and geologist, was the first to introduce the story of the Great Enclosure to the wider world. He suggested that the remarkable structure resembled the legendary capital of the biblical Queen of Sheba in Jerusalem. Mouch supposed the Great Enclosure was a copy of Solomon's temple on Mount Moriah and the place where the Queen of Sheba lived during a visit to King Solomon. Later, European explorers and researchers suggested that the Great Enclosure was the work of either Portuguese, Arabs, or Phoenicians. Also, there were claims that the structure was the work of a southern African tribe of ancient Jewish heritage, the Lemba. However, the latest 19th century archaeological study confirmed the structure was originally constructed by the ancient people of Zimbabwe. Historical records and archaeological evidence provide insights that suggest the Great Zimbabwe Empire had a robust and well-trained military that was able to defend the empire against the external threats and maintain its dominance in the region. It comprised of well-trained professional soldiers who protected the empire's borders, maintained internal security, and defended against external threats. The army was organized into regiments, each led by a commander. Also, the empire's military tactics were advanced and included the use of cavalry, infantry, and archers. The primary weapon used by its military was the spear. Spears were used both for close combat and throwing at enemies from a distance. They also used shields to protect themselves. The empire also had a sophisticated system of fortifications and defensive structures that protected its borders. The cities were surrounded by walls made of stone and mud, which acted as a defense against attacks. The Great Zimbabwe Empire was involved in several important battles against kingdoms in its neighboring regions as well as foreign invaders. One of the most important was the Battle of Mbwedza, which took place in the 14th century, in which the Great Zimbabwe Empire prevailed over the Kingdom of Mutapa. This was a significant victory. The Great Zimbabwe Empire was able to increase its wealth and power in addition to expanding its territory as a result of this victory. Another significant battle was the Battle of the Mafungabusi, which took place in the 13th century between the Great Zimbabwe Empire and the Kingdom of Mapambumbwe. The battle was fought near the Mafungabusi River and the Great Zimbabwe Empire emerged victorious and was able to bring down the dominance of the Mapangubwe kingdom. The Battle of Maungwe was the last battle that took place in the 15th century and was fought between the Great Zimbabwe Empire and the Kingdom of Mutapa. The Kingdom of Mutapa was a very powerful emerging kingdom in the region. They took over after the decline of the Great Zimbabwe Empire. In the Maungwe battle, the Kingdom of Mutapa won, and they became the dominant force in the region. In the late 15th century, the Great Zimbabwe Empire began to decline. Even though it had a strong military and economy, it was eventually brought down by a combination of several factors. The arrival of European explorers and traders in the area in the 16th century was one of the most significant factors. The Portuguese were especially interested in the gold and ivory in the area, so they set up trading posts along the coast of Mozambique. Over time, the Portuguese established a presence in the region and began to exert their influence over the empire. The arrival of Europeans impacted the Great Zimbabwe Empire in a big way. When the Europeans came, they brought with them new diseases that killed off many of the empire's people. They also messed up the trade networks, which had been a significant source of wealth and power for the kingdom. The Europeans also brought new technologies and weapons with them, which gave them an immense military advantage over the people of Great Zimbabwe. The exact reasons for the fall of the Great Zimbabwe Empire are not well understood, but historians believe that a combination of internal and external factors contributed to its decline. These included internal conflicts, external pressures from European powers, and environmental factors such as drought, soil, and degradation. Environmental degradation was one of the main factors that led to the fall of this empire. Agriculture was essential to the empire, especially the growing of sorghum and millet. But as the population grew, so did the demand for the arable land, which led to the loss of trees, soil erosion, and the loss of nutrients in the soil. These environmental factors caused the farms to produce less food, which hurt the economy of the empire and led to food shortages. The decline of the empire was also due to internal conflicts and rivalries with other kingdoms in the area. The empire was divided into several minor kingdoms, and each of them was vying to gain power and influence over the other kingdoms. This division, combined with the attacks from other kingdoms, weakened the empire, making it more vulnerable to attacks and control by outside forces. Regardless of the cause, the Great Zimbabwe Empire eventually declined and was abandoned by the 15th century. In the 19th century, Europeans were responsible for rediscovering the ruins of Great Zimbabwe, which have since developed into one of Zimbabwe's most popular tourist destinations. Today, the ruins of Great Zimbabwe Empire are a UNESCO World Heritage Site and attracts visitors from all over the world. The site is an important reminder of the rich history and culture of the African continent. It provides valuable insights into the achievements of pre-colonial civilizations. While the Great Zimbabwe Empire may no longer exist, its legacy lives on in the people and cultures of Zimbabwe and the wider region. In modern day, Zimbabwe's government and society have changed a lot. After declaring independence from the British colonial rule in 1980, Zimbabwe was immediately confronted with several difficulties, including political instability, economic decline, and widespread poverty. However, in recent years, the nation has made significant progress in several areas, including healthcare, education, and the country's overall economic development. If you made it to the end of this video, please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment below. We really hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something new today. We are really passionate about sharing lesser-known history of kingdoms and empires, so we really do appreciate all of your support and comments. Please check out the description box for more information on how you can further support this channel, and please follow us on our other social media channels.